The tension inside the Plath family may have finally reached a breaking point. But this time, the emotional explosion isn't centered around the children. It isn't about rebellion, religion, or the strict lifestyle that once turned an isolated Georgia family into one of reality television's most controversial households. This time, the spotlight lands directly on the woman who once controlled everything, and the man who may have just forced her into the most painful emotional corner of her life. For years, viewers watched Welcome to Plathville transform from a quiet family reality series into something far darker, more emotional, and far more complicated than anyone expected. At the center of it all stood Kim Plath, the strict matriarch whose parenting style became one of the most debated subjects in reality television. To supporters, she was a mother trying to protect her children from a dangerous modern culture. To critics, she represented control, emotional isolation, and a rigid worldview that eventually shattered her own family from the inside out. But somewhere along the way, the woman once accused of controlling everyone around her appeared to lose control of her own life. And now, according to growing speculation surrounding her relationship with Ken Palmer, that loss of control may be turning deeply personal. Because reports and fan discussions suggest that Ken allegedly presented Kim with an emotional ultimatum, one that may have forced her to choose between love, family stability, public image, and the fragile identity she has spent years trying to rebuild in front of millions of viewers. And if that's true, the fallout could permanently reshape the future of the Plath family. The most fascinating part of this entire story is that it almost feels impossible when compared to where this family started. Years ago, the Plaths were introduced to television audiences as an ultra-conservative rural family living far away from modern American culture. The children had limited access to technology. Popular music was restricted. Mainstream media was treated almost like a threat. Their lifestyle felt frozen in another era of America, a version of family life that some viewers admired and others found deeply unsettling. At the center of that structure stood Kim and her then-husband, Barry Plath. Together, they presented themselves as disciplined parents committed to faith, family, and traditional values. But reality television has a strange way of exposing fractures that people spend years trying to hide. And as seasons passed, the cracks became impossible to ignore. The conflict between Kim and several of her children slowly escalated into emotional warfare. Viewers watched arguments unfold over independence, dating, education, personal freedom, and emotional control. The family's oldest children began openly questioning the environment they were raised in. Some left home emotionally damaged. Others distanced themselves completely. Relationships collapsed in front of the cameras. Then came one of the most shocking developments in the series. Kim herself began changing. The woman who once enforced strict boundaries suddenly appeared to reject many of the rules she had once defended with absolute conviction. Her separation from Barry stunned longtime viewers because it challenged the entire foundation of what the family had publicly represented for years. Critics immediately accused her of hypocrisy. Online discussions exploded with questions. Had Kim changed because she genuinely evolved? Or had she simply wanted freedom for herself while denying it to her children for decades? Supporters argued that people are allowed to grow and change. Others believed the damage inside the family had already been done. And right in the middle of that storm appeared Ken Palmer. At first, many viewers barely understood who he was. But as rumors intensified and the relationship became more visible, fans began dissecting every appearance, every interaction, every subtle detail. In reality television culture, relationships are never just relationships. They become symbols. They become battlegrounds for public opinion. For some viewers, Ken represented Kim finally finding happiness after years of emotional strain and marital dysfunction. But for others, the relationship felt deeply uncomfortable because of how quickly it seemed to emerge after the collapse of her marriage. And then the speculation became even darker. Because relationship ultimatums are rarely about simple choices. They are about pressure, control, fear, power, and emotional leverage. According to ongoing fan theories and social media commentary, the alleged ultimatum may have involved the future direction of Kim's life itself. While no official statement has fully confirmed every rumor circulating online, the emotional implications alone have been enough to ignite massive debate across reality television communities. Did Ken want full commitment? Did he pressure Kim to distance herself further from Barry? Did he expect her to prioritize their relationship over family tensions? Or was the ultimatum tied to public perception and the chaos surrounding the show itself? The uncertainty is exactly what keeps viewers emotionally invested, because audiences aren't just watching a relationship anymore. They're watching a woman who spent years projecting certainty suddenly appear emotionally vulnerable in ways the public has never fully seen before. And vulnerability changes everything, especially for someone like Kim Plath. One of the reasons this story has exploded online is because Kim's public image has always been unusually complicated. Reality television audiences tend to divide people into heroes and villains. But Kim has never fit cleanly into either category. She has been criticized harshly by former viewers who blame her for emotional divisions within the family. Yet at the same time, others see her as a deeply flawed person navigating years of emotional pressure, motherhood, public judgment, and personal reinvention under the unforgiving microscope of television fame. That complexity makes this alleged ultimatum feel emotionally explosive. Because for perhaps the first time, viewers are seeing Kim in a position where she may not hold the power. And psychologically, that changes audience perception immediately. Human beings instinctively respond to emotional imbalance. When powerful figures appear wounded, audiences become fascinated. Some feel sympathy. Others feel satisfaction. Some see justice. Others see tragedy. And social media has amplified every possible interpretation. TikTok creators began dissecting old episodes, searching for clues about Kim's emotional state. YouTube commentators started analyzing body language during scenes involving Ken. Reddit threads exploded with theories about hidden relationship dynamics. Facebook fan groups turned into emotional war zones between supporters and critics. Some users argued Kim was finally experiencing the same emotional pressure her children once endured. Others insisted the criticism toward her had become cruel and obsessive. A growing number of fans claimed the entire situation reflects a deeper problem inside reality television itself, where real emotional pain becomes entertainment for millions of strangers. That argument is becoming harder to ignore. Because the emotional cost of reality fame is written all over the Plath family story. The rise of TLC reality programming created an entire ecosystem built around intimate family conflict. Viewers don't just watch events unfold anymore. They emotionally participate in them. Audiences form alliances. They pick sides. They analyze facial expressions, tone shifts, pauses in conversation, and cryptic social media posts as if they are decoding political scandals. And over time, the line between real life and public performance starts disappearing. That may be especially true for Kim. Imagine living through a collapsing marriage while millions of strangers debate whether you deserve happiness at all. Imagine rebuilding your identity after years of public criticism, only to have your new relationship become another source of scrutiny. Imagine trying to move forward while the internet constantly drags your past back into the spotlight. That level of pressure changes people psychologically. It creates hyper-awareness, anxiety, defensiveness, emotional exhaustion. And if the rumors surrounding Ken's ultimatum hold any truth, then Kim may now be facing a devastating emotional contradiction. The pursuit of personal happiness could be threatening the fragile stability she has left. That contradiction is what makes this story feel larger than celebrity gossip. Because underneath the reality TV headlines is something painfully human. Fear of abandonment. Fear of public humiliation. Fear of repeating past mistakes. Fear that reinvention may come too late. For years, Kim appeared emotionally immovable on television. Even during family conflicts, she often projected calm certainty. Critics interpreted that as emotional coldness. But emotional control can sometimes hide emotional fragility, And when emotionally guarded people finally become vulnerable, the collapse can be overwhelming. Some viewers believe Kim's recent emotional appearances reflect exactly that. Several fan discussions have pointed to moments where she appeared unusually tired, emotionally withdrawn, or visibly stressed during public interactions connected to the show. While audiences can never fully know what happens privately behind cameras, perception matters enormously in reality television culture. And perception shapes narrative. Right now, the narrative surrounding Kim Plath feels deeply unstable. She is no longer simply the strict mother from early seasons. She is no longer only the controversial parent blamed for family fractures. She is becoming something else entirely in the eyes of viewers. A woman caught between judgment and sympathy. That transition may explain why this alleged ultimatum story has generated such emotional intensity online. It taps into one of the oldest dramatic structures in storytelling, the fall of authority. Audiences are fascinated when powerful figures lose certainty because it reveals humanity underneath control. And perhaps no element of the story hits harder than the possibility that Kim herself may now understand emotional isolation in a completely different way than she once did. Some critics online have openly argued that her current struggles mirror what several of her children experienced while growing up under strict family rules. Those arguments have fueled endless debates about accountability, parenting, and emotional consequences. But others push back strongly against that framing. They argue that reducing Kim to a villain ignores the complexity of real families. They point out that parents are imperfect human beings shaped by their own fears, traumas, beliefs, and mistakes. They believe viewers have become too comfortable dehumanizing reality TV personalities because cameras create emotional distance. That divide has become one of the defining features of modern reality television fandom. The audience no longer simply watches the story. The audience becomes part of the story. Every Instagram comment, every reaction video, every viral TikTok, every Reddit theory, every headline. Together, they create emotional momentum powerful enough to shape public perception in real time. And in Kim's case, public perception may now directly affect her personal relationships, because relationship ultimatums rarely happen in emotional isolation. Pressure builds slowly. Tension accumulates quietly. Small disagreements become symbolic. Public criticism becomes personal stress. Private insecurities become amplified. Then eventually someone forces a decision. That's why so many viewers are emotionally hooked by this story. Not because they know every detail, but because they recognize the emotional pattern. It could affect family trust, future co-parenting dynamics, public image, financial opportunities tied to the show, and the long-term emotional identity of the entire Plath brand. Reality television families often become businesses whether they intend to or not. Their personal lives generate ratings, headlines, sponsorship opportunities, and online engagement. That creates an uncomfortable reality where emotional crises can become financially valuable. Which raises another disturbing question. How much pressure does fame place on already fragile relationships? Because once cameras enter a family system, authenticity becomes complicated. Every disagreement risks becoming content. Every emotional breakdown risks becoming storyline. Every relationship transition risks becoming public property. And eventually, people stop knowing where performance ends and real life begins. Some former reality stars from other television franchises have spoken openly about this psychological effect. They describe feeling trapped between maintaining public narratives and protecting private emotional truth. Several have discussed anxiety, depression, identity confusion, and emotional burnout caused by prolonged public exposure. While Kim herself has not publicly confirmed many of the more dramatic online theories, the intensity of speculation alone demonstrates how deeply audiences project onto reality TV personalities. Viewers don't just consume stories anymore. They emotionally inhabit them. That emotional investment explains why this situation has sparked such fierce reactions. To some viewers, Kim represents personal growth and the painful complexity of changing later in life. To others, She symbolizes hypocrisy and unresolved accountability. To still others, she represents something even sadder, a person trying to rebuild herself while carrying the weight of public judgment that may never fully disappear. And perhaps that's why the alleged ultimatum feels so emotionally loaded. Because ultimatums force people to confront uncomfortable truths. What matters most? What are they willing to sacrifice? What version of themselves are they trying to become? And what happens when the people around them no longer believe in that transformation? Those are deeply human questions. Universal questions. Painful questions. Which is exactly why audiences cannot stop watching. There's also a cultural dimension to this story that reaches beyond the Plath family itself. American audiences remain fascinated by public reinvention narratives, especially involving women who redefine themselves later in life after years inside restrictive systems. Some viewers interpret Kim's evolution as empowerment. Others see chaos. Others see contradiction. But almost nobody sees simplicity anymore. And complexity drives engagement. That's one reason reality television continues dominating modern entertainment culture. It creates emotionally messy narratives without clean resolutions. Unlike scripted dramas, reality TV conflicts feel unpredictable because real people rarely behave in perfectly satisfying ways. Kim's story embodies that unpredictability. She was once portrayed as the guardian of rigid structure. Now she appears to be navigating emotional uncertainty herself. That reversal creates psychological intrigue audiences can't resist, especially when romance enters the equation. Romantic ultimatums trigger powerful emotional reactions because they tap into primal fears, rejection, abandonment, loss of control, emotional replacement, and personal inadequacy. Even viewers who dislike Kim may subconsciously relate to the emotional pain such situations create. And if Ken truly pressured her toward a major decision, the emotional impact could be devastating regardless of who audiences support. That may explain why even critics of Kim have expressed moments of sympathy during recent online discussions. Some viewers admitted that despite years of frustration with her behavior on the show, watching someone appear emotionally cornered still feels painful. Others, however, remain deeply skeptical. Some fan communities believe the storyline itself may partially benefit from reality television publicity cycles. In modern entertainment culture, relationship drama often fuels ratings and online conversation. Critics argue audiences should remain cautious before accepting every emotional narrative at face value. And they have a point. Reality television exists in a strange gray zone between authenticity and storytelling. Producers shape narratives through editing, scene selection, music cues, confessionals, and timeline construction. What viewers see is real, but it is also curated. That ambiguity creates endless debate. Still, even if parts of the public narrative are amplified by television production, the emotional reactions surrounding Kim appear undeniably real. You can hear it in the online conversations. The exhaustion, the anger, the sympathy, the judgment, the fascination. This family has become emotionally symbolic to many viewers. Some see them as a warning about rigid parenting. Others see them as victims of reality television exploitation. Some view them as evidence that personal transformation is possible. Others believe the damage within the family may never fully heal. And now, with rumors of emotional ultimatums and relationship strain dominating discussions, the story feels more unstable than ever. Because the deeper issue may not be whether Ken issued an ultimatum. The deeper issue may be whether Kim truly knows what she wants anymore. That uncertainty is terrifying, especially for someone whose identity was once built around certainty itself. For years, Kim projected clear beliefs about morality, family structure, parenting, and lifestyle. But public reinvention often comes with emotional consequences people underestimate. When someone radically changes their life direction, they sometimes lose not only relationships, but internal stability. Old identities collapse. New identities remain fragile. Public criticism intensifies self-doubt. and personal relationships become emotionally charged battlegrounds. That emotional instability may now be surfacing publicly,